Over the last 6 years, I've been managing over hundreds of thousands in Facebook ad spend, and I've been learning a lot of very important lessons through doing that. So in this video, I'm going to discuss my 7 most important principles for having effective media buying for Facebook ads in 2024. So all of these 7 principles I've put in the order that I think is the most important, but it still isn't the order that you would set something up. So make sure you watch the video all the way to the end to get a full understanding of how you actually set something up from scratch and how you get started with the perfect Facebook ads campaign. So the number 1 is actually not that obvious, and this is what I found often is the most important thing, but very often I see marketers and entrepreneurs forget this. So choosing which products to market is the number 1 thing, and it's super important if you want to have a successful campaign. So an example I like to illustrate is imagine your Facebook ad account as a store. And that store is going to have a storefront, and there it's going to be a window. And you're going to have to choose which products to actually place in that window to attract customers and make them come into your store. But very often I see advertisers actually place all of their products and many of their products in their ad account, and they spend some budget on all of them, even though only some of them is actually bringing in the majority of the sales and the majority of the profitable results. So when you set up your campaign, make sure you spend a lot of time actually figuring out which product or services you're going to focus on. Because if you place all of your products in your ad account, you're going to have to spread your budget across multiple different variables, and that's going to spread your budget thin, and you're not going to be able to really optimize and get the ads for this specific hero products, like the most important products that are actually bringing the majority of your results. You're not going to get the compounding growth for those products. Instead, you're just going to be average across all of your products. So usually it's 2 things you need to evaluate when you make this decision. So oftentimes it's actually just based on which product is the easiest to market. And very often that's going to be your best seller or one of your best sellers. But the other thing you need to take into the equation is what is the margin on that product. Because if you have a product that it's very easy to market and it's easy to get customers into your store, if the margin on that product is really bad, then you might be better off actually advertising another product that is maybe a bit harder to sell, but the ones you sell, you actually make a bigger profit on. So to make a proper decision regarding this, you actually need to know what's the CPA, the cost per acquisition on these different products, so that you can see if it makes more sense to go with the higher margin product or if you should go with your easier to market product. And now if you're thinking, well, how do I sell all my other products? You should have a proper backend setup where you can scale horizontally. So when you draw in new customers into your store or into your business with your hero products, after that is when you upsell them and cross-sell them into your other categories and products. So make sure you have a proper backend setup and make sure you use other channels, not just paid ads, to sell your products and scale horizontally. Now, the second most important principle for having a successful Facebook ads campaign is actually crafting a really compelling and good offer. Now, there's many ways you can craft a compelling offer, and some examples could be buy X, get Y free. Anytime you use the word free in an offer, a lot of people are going to take you up on that. But it could also just be a percentage of whatever you're selling. You can give a discount. You can have a buy one, get one. That's a really good offer. And for e-commerce, this is usually like the general type of offers people run. But if you're selling services or something else, you could also be very creative with how you craft and set up your offer. But just make sure that you spend a lot of time figuring out which offer to go with. And you can always test this. One of the absolute biggest levers that you can pull in optimizing your results is actually just switching out your offer. So see if you can maybe bundle some of your products together and make a really good, highly discounted bundle where you still have a pretty good margin. Just be creative. Look through how you can make a really good offer. Look at what your competitors are doing and see how you can maybe outcompete them by having a more compelling offer. Now, when you make an offer, 2 things that can make it very effective: urgency and scarcity, or both at the same time. So an example of how you can use urgency is calling it the January sale or the January offer. And you say this offer is only available for January, or you don't even need to say that. You can just put that at the title of the offer, and you can just change it next month to the February offer, right? So by doing this, obviously people are going to feel a sense of urgency when they go onto your website and you see the offer. Another thing you can do is adding scarcity. So some examples of how you can add scarcity is just mentioning that you have limited stock. That in itself is actually creating scarcity. You can also just be upfront of how many units you have available of this offer, or you can have it set up to a point where you only provide this offer to the first 100, 200 or 300, 500, whatever customers. So make sure you add this into the mix to really have an effective offer. So the third most important principle is going to be the creative. So the actual creative aspect of the ad. So that would be first and foremost the image or the video. And then it's going to be the ad copy and the headline and the description. So once you have figured out which product to focus on and you have crafted a really good offer, the next step is going to be to effectively communicate the value of that offer. And the best way to do that is not always video, it's not always image, it totally depends on the product, and this is why you need to test a lot. So my general rule of thumb with this is if the offer and the product is very easy to understand the value of, in that case, image is often the format that works the best. And the reason for that is the CPM cost is usually lower when you're advertising in the image format because you have more available placements. If you go with video, you're going to have to essentially force people to watch a video. They have to spend more time on it. And Meta also has slightly fewer available options of where you can place this video. So you're going to have a bit higher CPM cost. Now, this does not mean you should always go with image, but if the offer is very easy to understand and the product is not hard to understand, then image could be the way to go. Just make sure you test a bunch of different ones and see which one worked the best. Now, if the product or offer is a bit harder to explain and you need a bit more time to actually explain all the points to really fully communicate the value of this, then video could be the way to go. But we also sometimes see that the carousel format is working well for this. So make sure you do a lot of testing. Test out the different formats and see which one works the best for you. And once you figure that out, don't stop there. Continue to test a lot of similar variants to the one that became the winner in your campaign. And once you find a few winners, make sure you run it for a bit, make new ones, and then try to outcompete your current winners. One of the absolute biggest levers when it comes to going inside your ads manager and optimizing is not necessarily just targeting and campaign structure. The biggest lever today to pull is usually the creative and testing new creatives. So number one is video or image. That's the biggest lever you can pull. After that, you should test different hooks in the primary text and different headlines. Principle number 4 is having proper campaign structure and optimal targeting setup. Now, this is maybe something that a lot of people overthink and overdo. A lot of advertisers that I speak with, they really put a lot of time, effort, and resources into figuring out the campaign structure and the targeting. But the thing is today, Meta Ads is so smart and the algorithm is so smart that if you just give it enough data, this is not the most difficult part. So in general, what's working the best as of today is usually having one campaign, consolidating it down to one campaign, then have one ad set that you let stay open. So you don't specify any targeting, you just let the algorithm work its magic. And then you have a second ad set where you put in interests that are relevant to the product that you're selling. Now, usually over time, the open ad set with the broad targeting is going to be the best because you give it so much freedom and you let the algorithm work freely. But sometimes in the beginning, if you don't have a lot of historic data in your ad account and maybe you haven't run ads for a little while, then sometimes the interest-based targeting option is actually working the best because you're essentially sending Facebook in the right direction to search for potential customers. Now, regarding lookalike audiences, this is something that we see is barely working anymore. We don't see a lot of cases where we actually use it, but if you're just starting out and you have a big list, let's say, for example, an email list of 10,000 plus email subscribers, then I would advise you to actually upload it into Facebook Ads Manager and have a look at testing a lookalike audience. But if you don't have a lot of data like that and you already have a lot of historic data in the ad account, you have been running campaigns and you have the proper pixel setup, etc., then I wouldn't really spend a lot of time testing lookalike because for the last few years, we have not really seen the lookalike audience targeting option work really well. So for any business really. So I wouldn't spend much time on that. So principle number 5 is having a proper data acquisition setup. So by that, I mean having a proper pixel and server-side tracking setup. So if you're running, for example, with Shopify, this is fairly easy to set up, but I have been seeing cases where people have using a custom theme and for some reason the native integration between Shopify and Meta is not working properly. And the tracking has been way off. And what that results in is usually that the results are way worse than what they can be if you just have this set up correctly. So as you can see here, this is an example of one of the clients that we onboarded last year. And the first thing we found was that their pixel setup was not set up correctly because they have switched from one Shopify team to another. So as soon as we changed that, you can see the results immediately spiking. And that's just to illustrate how important it is to have this set up correctly from day one. Because if it's not properly set up, you can be spending a lot of money, a lot of budget, and you think you're going somewhere, but all you need to do to really be profitable and to be able to scale is just to fix the data acquisition setup. So if you're unsure if you have set this up correctly, make sure you go into Events Manager and see how it looks in there. And if you see that the matching quality is very low, or you see that something looks off, make sure you look more into it and see if you can figure out how to fix it, because it's really, really important. So principle number 6 is going to be to use the correct scaling strategy. Now, a big mistake I've seen a lot of advertisers make is just increasing the budget in 2 big increments. And the problem there is that they increase it, and all of a sudden at some point they see it's no longer profitable. So the problem there is if you increase it in 2 big increments, you will not know where your current scaling cap is. So let's see you jump from $200 per day to $600 per day, and then the profitability drops off. You don't know where between 200 and 600 you should be spending on a daily basis. So by using an automatic scaling rule, which I have been explaining in another video on my channel, you can click right here and see it, or I'll link in the description below. I teach you how to set up a scaling method with an automatic rule that increases your budget by a certain percentage every day, as long as you're within a certain profitability metric. So that could either be a certain ROAS number or a certain cost per results number. Now, by doing it this way, you will obviously scale a bit slower, but at least you'll find where your scaling cap is. And when you find that, you see the profitability starts to drop. That's where you need to start to test and, maybe re-angle the offer or do something to get beyond that so you can continue to scale. Now, another thing I see a lot of advertisers do as a mistake is when they get to a very high daily budget, they continue to use the highest volume bid strategy. In some cases, it's okay to use this, but you just need to keep in mind that when you're using highest volume, you're essentially just telling Facebook to spend your budget regardless of what your profitability is. So in my opinion, this is very risky because you probably have some days where the results drop, but Facebook still spends all your money. So by switching to a cost controlled bid strategy, such as cost per result goal or a ROAS goal or a bid cap, you're able to have more control of the actual profitability of your campaign. And if you have a really bad day with low sales, you're forcing Facebook to take this into account to get days where you have a lower cost per result to make up for the bad days. And if you're even using a bid cap, you will make sure you don't spend as much budget on the days where you have really low results. So I would highly recommend, once you get to a really high daily budget and you have consistent data flowing into the campaign, look into starting to switch to a cost control bid strategy. And I'll explain this more in the other video that I link in the description. So making sure you have a look at that if you're currently at a level where you're spending a lot of money every day on Facebook ads. So principle number 7 is going to be focusing on conversion rate optimization and optimizing your average order value, as well as having a proper backend setup. So this is the point where people actually look at your ad, they're interested, they click on and they land on your website. At that point, that's where it's really important to make sure you have a proper conversion rate optimization setup to make sure you don't lose out on a lot of potential customers, because you already made them come onto your website. So now you just want to make sure you sell them and get them into your customer database. So I've also made a lot of videos on this. I'm also going to link that in the description below. We have one case study where we really improved one of our clients' conversion rates by a lot. And I'll take you through all the things we did, so you can just click here and watch that. I'll also leave the link to that video in the description. But the main points here is minimizing the friction, so both the obvious and the visible friction, but also the invisible psychological friction that occurs when somebody lands on your website. So the obvious one, the visible one, is going to be more technical aspects, like how quickly do your landing page load. If you have just a few seconds more than necessary, you're going to have a way higher drop-off rate, and you're going to lose out on a lot of the people that clicked on your ad because they're not even going to land on your page properly. Now, the other thing that's obvious is where you place your add to cart button, how you have your page structures and stuff like that. But on the other side of this, you also have the not so obvious friction that appears psychologically every time somebody lands on a new website or a new landing page. And that is this a scam? Can I trust this? Is this going to solve the problem that I have that they claim they can? And so to do this, have a lot of reviews, make sure you include a lot of conversion rate optimization aspects that takes care of these kind of concerns, and add as much credibility to your page as you possibly can. So if you have testimonials, or if you have been featured in any public magazines or newspapers, make sure you include this kind of stuff on your landing page to build as much credibility as absolutely possible so you don't lose out on sales. And the last part is going to be having a proper backend setup. So once you actually convert customers, you don't want to stop there. You want to make sure that you still cross-sell them or upsell them if you have more products, or if it could be relevant to upsell them into the same product if they can buy more units. So make sure you have this set up so that you can increase your average order value, but also increase the lifetime value of each customer that you get. Because if you have customers coming back to you either through email marketing, if you get them onto your list, or SMS marketing, or even through your organic social pages, by doing that, you will have more sales coming in, helping you staying profitable even during the months where your sales might be lower from the paid ads channels. And this is going to be absolutely essential if you want to keep your business profitable and afloat long term, and you want to build an actual brand that's going to be sustainable for many years to come. So I hope you found this video valuable. Make sure you click the links to the other videos that I mentioned in the description below. And if you want to potentially work with me and my team, we currently have a few slots open. So you can click the link to book a strategy call with me in the description. And I'm going to give you a free strategy call where I look through your marketing setup and give you practical and valuable advice. And if I see that we could potentially start a partnership, then I will also offer you a free marketing audit where I go through your ad account and your ads and give you even more advice that you can use for yourself. And if you see that potential partnership would make sense, then I'm going to give you an offer as well. So make sure you click the link in the description below and subscribe, like the video. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.